Make sure y'all stay on point with
The Puncher's Point.
What is good, y'all? Welcome to The Puncher's Point. We are back at it with another prediction episode. This time, Gervonta Tank Davis comes back to the ring, and this time he is facing Lamont Roach. Now, overall, a lot of us know the outcome of this fight. We know a lot of us, everybody's saying that it's going to be Tank by knockout. But does Lamont Roach have a chance? That is the question. Does he have a chance? And a lot of y'all already, before we even continue with the episode, y'all are going to say no. And the reason why is because he's the lighter opponent. He's kind of has like the same style as Frank Martin. We see what happened with him. So overall, y'all are going to say no. However, everybody's beatable. And so we're going to talk about the keys to victory for both fighters, the strengths and weaknesses for both fighters, and including the betting odds, which might shock you. So make sure y'all continue to tune into this episode. And make sure y'all stay into this episode for the entire way through. Probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, boxer in today's day. I mean, Gervonta Davis, undefeated. I mean, the guy has became a three division champion. The guy's done a lot. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I mean, the 30-0, 28 knockouts, and you can say what you want about Gervonta Davis. A lot of people are gonna say he is a lot of people are going to say, he's a 30-year-old prospect. A lot of people are going to say he doesn't fight the best, weight trains opponents. There's been all sorts of criticism for Gervonta Tank Davis. But what you cannot say, you cannot honestly say that Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't step into the ring against the best opponents. If he did, you cannot say he does not have a favorable chance to win that fight. You can't say it. You cannot. There might be different predictions as to who might win, but I'm saying this right now. You could put Gervonta Davis in the ring with the best, and he is a threat to all of them. So, with that being said, well, what's Gervonta Tank Davis's strengths and weaknesses? Well, if I got to talk about the strengths, a lot of y'all are going to say power. It's precision. In my opinion, Tank's biggest strength is his precision. The way he is able to just accurately clip you. And again, he is a hard puncher. Don't get me wrong. Tank can hit, but it's the precision that knocks these guys out. That's what it is. It's the precision. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of boxers have came forward and said, look, it's not Tank's power. He's got power, but it ain't that. It's the precise accuracy that he puts on those punches. See, Gervonta Tank Davis is a very, very smart fighter. He has a very, very good ring IQ. He knows how to set up punches. He knows how to set up those accurate punches. A lot of his fights, they go into later rounds, but he knows how to accurately set up those punches and he knows how to clip you with them. Every single fighter he has been able to break down. Those early rounds, he's been able to break them down. Whether you look at Rolly Romero, Ryan Garcia, you look at Mario Barrios, Frank Martin, whoever, he has been able to knock them out. Now, as with that being said, he's got great fight IQ, he's got great precision, great power, he's got great timeness. And the thing about Gervonta Tank Davis is he's like a calculator. He's calculating everything that you're doing. Every single round, he's getting more and more calculations. And then right when he figures it out, right when he feels like he's got you almost at 100%, if not at 100%, that's it. He's going to end you right there. Now, the weakness I will say with Gervonta Tank Davis is, in my opinion, from what I've seen, Gervonta Tank Davis is not good behind a jab. If you constantly just hit him with that jab, he is not good under it, in my opinion. The reason why I say that is because maybe it's a calculation tool. I don't know. But if I'm talking to a fighter, I'm going to say every single round you smack him with that jab. And if you have a chance, you land a 2-3 punch combination and then you use your footwork to slip out. I do think that in order to beat Tank, it is going to take a guy with movement. It is going to take a guy who is slick. And in my opinion, if you can knock out Tank, congratulations. But I don't think there's many guys out there that can knock out Tank, but I don't know because I have not seen Tank get clipped or rocked hard. In the Ryan Garcia fight, maybe there was one moment. I know Tank's been rocked before in his early career, but as of right now, if we're talking about Gervonta Tank Davis, this Gervonta Tank Davis, the one that's became the cash cow, the one that's promoted himself, the one that is basically 30 years old and he's a veteran of the sport. If we're talking about that Gervonta Tank Davis, I have not seen him get rocked much. So I think it's going to take a fighter who has a very good jab, a fighter who has good footwork, B, and C, it's going to take a fighter who is going to be the perfect balance of aggressiveness versus cautiousness. If you have a fighter that's just going to go in there and just constantly swing like Ryan Garcia did, he's just going to constantly look for the knockout, Tank will knock your lights out. If you find the fighter who is just going to play it cautious and just throw a couple of jabs, Tank will take advantage of that and become the aggressor. But if you find a guy who is going to hit you 1-2 with the jab, come up with a hook, and it slip back out, Tank's going to have a tough time. And in the Frank Martin fight, what I learned from that fight was Tank Martin had a great game plan. Tank Martin had a beautiful game plan. Hit him with that jab, keep him behind that jab, don't give him chances to come forward. And then basically, if you have the time, if you have the chance, hit a 2-3 punch combination, keep that guard up, make sure you have that guard, and then slip back out. What happened at the later on in that fight is it's all about the intimidation factor for Tank Davis. Every single press conference, it looks like he's trying to intimidate his opponent in some type of way, whether that's trying to push them, whether that's talking trash to them, whether it's him getting maybe a little bit more physical than a push, whatever it may be. Tank Davis is always trying to intimidate his opponents, and the reason why he's trying to do that, there's always a tool, whether that's him trying to test the range, whether that's him trying to scare his opponents to make them fight more cautious, whether that is him trying to get into his opponent's head, whether that is him trying to kind of feel his opponents, kind of feel how, how they're going to stand in that ring. There's always a method to his madness. I mean, in my opinion, y'all can say what you want about Tank, but he is very, very smart. So it's going to take the perfect balance. And the question is, does Lamont Roach have that perfect balance? So going into that, I do think that when you really look at it, Tank's got the weakness of being behind the jab. He's got the weakness of not being able to, or not, I shouldn't say not be able to, kind of struggling against guys with good footwork. The other thing about Tank Davis is sometimes I feel like his footwork gets a little bit sloppy as well. I'm not saying he doesn't have any good footwork because he does, but sometimes I feel like his feet might get tangled up a little bit. There's been times when I've seen him trip. I feel like if you find a fighter who is able to bring some type of aggression towards him, who is able to kind of be the one to push the pace, that ends up kind of rubbing Tank the wrong way. The one fight I can look at, and I can honestly say Tank was tested, and a lot of y'all are going to say, oh, he had a hurt hand, was Pitbull versus Tank. When that fight happened, both of those guys studied each other very, very well. Tank was able to get the win, a 116-112 decision, basically. However, what I noticed about the Pitbull fight was Pitbull brought some type of aggression that Gervonta never saw. But at the same time, Pitbull was also safe. Pitbull also kept that guard up. Now, there were also times where I feel like Pitbull maybe got a little too greedy and he kind of got clipped with some stuff he shouldn't have got clipped with. But overall, Pitbull was able to basically minimalize Tank in a way, and he was able to, in some moments outbox Tank. But for the majority of that fight, Tank was the aggressor. Tank did what he had to do. He clawed deep down and he won that fight. Now, a lot of y'all might be saying, oh, well, if Tank wasn't injured, it'd be a different story. Maybe. Who knows? But overall, that's not what happened in that fight. So, with that being said, going on to Lamont Roach. Does Lamont Roach have a chance? Before before we get into all of that, I will say this. Let's look up Lamont Roach real quick. I'm going to give y'all some stats on Lamont Roach for y'all who might not be too familiar with his game. 25-1, 10 knockouts, and overall he has one loss to Jamel Herring. Now, I know what a lot of y'all are going to say, oh, it's against Jamel Herring, so, it's not the best loss you can have on your record. Tank's got this in the bag. Well, before we say that, let's talk about it. Lamont Roach, what I will say is he's very, very versatile. I will say that. He's very good to the body. I think he's got some very, very good body work. And what I mean by that is he might not be the strongest body puncher. He's knocked down a couple guys with body punches, but he might not be the strongest guy when it comes to the body punchers. But what I will say is he targets them a lot more than what Tank's opponents have. So I will say that is a tool that Lamont Roach could use to his advantage. The other thing about Lamont Roach is Lamont Roach got a decent left. I will say that right now. He's got a decent left. He's got a very, very good jab, and he's very good with his movement. So that's what I will say as far as if you were to pack all the strengths with Lamont Roach. The thing about Lamont Roach is Lamont Roach has the foot movement to basically be a problem for anybody, and that's what I will respect. He's got good movement. The guy is able to be quick on his feet. The guy is able to cut angles in a way, and he's able to, generate some type of offense out of that. So I do believe that will be a threat to not just Tank, but any opponent he faces. The weaknesses with Lamont Roach. The thing is with Lamont Roach, he has a tendency of backing up too much. That's the only problem with his footwork. He has a tendency of backing up too much. And here's what I will say. There's guys with good footwork, but a lot of these guys who have good footwork, when you press the gas on them, they back up way too much and then they land up on the ropes. There was a fight that Lamont Roach had, and he was going up against McCrory, and McCrory backed him up on those ropes a little bit, and he was able to kind of tee off on him a little bit. He back Some guys have backed him up on the corner a little bit, and he's able to kind of like maneuver his way around. But with Tank Davis, you got to realize you're not going to do that against him. You're not going to be able to maneuver and get Tank Davis back in that corner. You're just not going to be able to do it because Tank is just too smart. He's not going to let you. So what you got to do is, if I would say if there was a keys to victory from Lamont Roach, I would say just keep sticking him with that jab. And if you have the chance, hit him with a 2-3 punch combination. Keep sticking Tank with that jab. Now, towards the later rounds, he's going to get a lot more aggressive. He's going to try to set up more things. What you got to do is first you have to study your film when it comes to Tank Davis. But the other thing you have to do is you got to always keep that guard. You got to make sure you protect your body, and you got to make sure you protect that chin. Because if you don't, Tank Davis is going to come after you. So you got to be very smart with when you're going to pick to throw your combos. But at the same time, the safest thing that you can do against Tank is just keep on jabbing him. Just keep on jabbing him. He's going to try to push your hand out the way. Just keep on jabbing him. That's it. If you can keep Tank at bay, if you can keep Tank at a distance, you can beat him. That's why everybody's saying if there's a guy that's going to beat him, a lot of people are saying if there's a threat that's going to beat him, it's going to be somebody like a Shakur Stevenson. It's going to be somebody like some people might say, before y'all get mad at me, Devin Haney. Some people are going to say Lomachenko. If you look at all three of those opponents, the one thing that they all have in common is they can move around that ring. That's the one thing they have in common. It's going to take a guy with movement. Lamont Roach has movement, so I can say right then and there, he has some type of chance. But he's going to have to keep him behind the jab. He's going to have to keep his guard up. Last but not least, stay away from the ropes in the corner. If I got to see one more guy going to the ropes or the corner against Gervonta Davis, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. Leo Santa Cruz did that. Freaking Frank Martin did that. Rolly Romero did that. Why do you people want to get on the ropes? Why do you want to give Tank more opportunities to kick your ass? I don't understand it. If I'm going up against Tank Davis, I'm staying away from those ropes as possible. I get it. You think the ropes are going to break your fall if he cracks you. They're not going to break your fall. I hate to admit it to you. It's not going to freaking happen. He's going to hit you. He's going to hit you so precisely and so hard that you're going to fall on the ropes. So I don't understand why we keep on doing this. Leo Santa Cruz got buried in the corner. Frank Martin got buried underneath the bottom rope. Freaking Rolly Romero got knocked down on the freaking ropes. He got lured into the ropes. Why do we keep doing? Why do you guys keep on going to the ropes in the corners? I don't understand that. If you just use your footwork, move around Tank, stick him with that jab, and keep him at bay, you have a good shot. Now again, Tank is a very, very smart fighter. He's going to collect data as time goes on. He's going to get better as the rounds progress. That's what I will say about Tank. He doesn't gas out. He doesn't get tired. He will get better as the rounds progress. That is one of his biggest strengths as well. But what you have to do is you got to constantly keep him at bay. You got to frustrate him. And you know what? Maybe if you frustrate him, maybe if he gets aggressive, you can counterpunch him. I do think it's going to take somebody with good counterpunching ability. I do think Lamont Roach got decent counterpunching ability. The power will not translate, so I don't think this is going to end in a knockout for Lamont Roach if he does win. Do I think he's going to win? That's where we turn into the betting odds and the predictions. So with that being said, the betting odds and the prediction, well, as you guys would guess, the betting odds are heavily in Gervonta Davis's favor. Now, early in the episode, you guys heard me say that you might be surprised with the betting odds. Well, if they're heavily in Gervonta Davis's favor, that's what y'all would expect, correct? However, the reason why I said you might be surprised is because, well, Tank Davis is a minus 2,000 favorite, while Lamont Roach is a plus 1,040 underdog. Now, that's a pretty massive gap. The most likely odds would be, if you were to take a guess, Gervonta Tank Davis by knockout. The least likely odds, besides a draw, is going to be Lamont Roach by points. The reason why this is so shocking is because, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, Lamont Roach's odds to get a win by points or decision is at plus 2,100. His odds to get a knockout is at plus 1,500. They think that it's more likely for Lamont Roach to knock out Gervonta Davis than for him to win by decision, which I find absolutely insane. So, with that being said, if you go by rounds, the most favorable round where they believe that Gervonta Tank Davis is going to knock him out is going to be round 8 at plus 650. So, with that being said, what do I have this fight? What would be my prediction? Well, you take a guy like Lamont Roach, kind of fights a little bit like Frank Martin, just maybe not at that level. Frank Martin got knocked out in the eighth. I'm gonna go Lamont Roach, sixth round knockout. I think it's gonna be a sixth round. Oh, excuse me, excuse me. Whoa, 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 whoa. Reverse, reverse. Okay, I don't want that on here. I think it's gonna be Tank Davis knocking out Lamont Roach in the sixth round. Y'all might have thought I was going crazy. It's gonna be Tank Davis knockout sixth round. What I think is gonna happen is this. I think that Lamont Roach, he's gonna have a good, decent, maybe 3 rounds on this card. Gervonta Davis is going to start creeping forward. And then what I think is going to happen is Lamont Roach is going to do the same exact thing Frank Martin did, except the only difference is he's not going to lean on those ropes voluntarily. What's going to happen is Gervonta Davis is going to collect data like he usually does. He might hit him with some body shots. He might try to use some feints to get Lamont Roach to open up his guard. He's going to crack Lamont Roach with something. He's going to back Lamont Roach up, and then he's going to get him in that corner, and then Tank is going to knock him out. Maybe he'll knock him down. Lamont gets back up, and then Gervonta will charge in and just knock him out. But overall, somehow, some way, Gervonta Davis will get Lamont Roach on those ropes in the corner. The reason why I say that is because Lamont Roach has a tendency of going to that ropes, of going to the corner, of backing up a little bit too much. And when Tank pushes that gas fast and forward, I believe that Tank is going to knock him out in the corner or in the ropes. Now, before we end this, the only loss that Lamont Roach ever had was to Jamel Herring. Now, when you go watch that fight, Jamel Herring's reach and his height had a big reason to do with that. It was really hard for Lamont Roach to get into the inside. Now, the difference is here, Tank Davis is 5'5", Lamont Roach is taller, so that's not going to be a factor. But overall, Tank Davis has a tendency to fight like a bigger fighter, even though he's not. So overall, what I think is going to happen is Lamont Roach is going to have some decent moments. He might win 2 or 3 rounds in this fight, and then what's going to happen? Tank will figure him out. From 4 to 5, you're going to really start seeing Tank heat up, and in round 6, he's going to counter him. He's going to push him back up against those ropes, and then Tank is just going to knock him out, in my opinion. So I got Tank, sixth round KO. And with that being said, we're going to have to wait and see. March 1st, this fight is going to be happening. Now, obviously, it's not the fight that we asked for. You know, we rather see Tank Davis fight one of the other champions in the 135-pound division or the 140-pound division. That's what we would like to see. That's not going to happen. We're going to get Lamont Roach, but who knows what happens after this fight. Look, I want to give Tank the benefit of the doubt that he's going to fight one of these big names, but we're going to have to wait and see. You know, overall, it's not looking like that right now. It's looking like Gervonta Tank Davis got other plans or that those fights can't be made, but this fight is going to be in Barkley Center, Brooklyn, New York, and overall, we should be getting a good fight. It's not going to be for any title. Like, it's not going to be for Lamont Roach's super featherweight title. It's not going to be for any of that. But overall, we should get a decent fight, I guess, out of this, I guess you could say. I mean, I'm not really excited about it. We already know who's going to win it. If Lamont Roach can shock the world, that would be a pretty amazing thing. And Lamont Roach would be like an overnight sensation in boxing. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to take somebody with a lot more skill, a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge to beat somebody like Gervonta Tank Davis. But overall, you just never know in boxing. So with that being said, March 1st, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. Make sure y'all tune into that fight. Make sure y'all tune into the Puncher's Point. We're definitely going to be given a fight post-fight breakdown after that fight is already done. We just released Shakur Stevenson versus Josh Padley. Before this episode gets released, we're going to be releasing Junto Nakatani defeating David Quaylab, our fourth round KO. So if you're a big fan of Junto Nakatani, if you're a big fan of Japanese boxing, make sure y'all go check that out. Last but not least, make sure y'all stay on point with the Puncher's Point.